You're listening to the Acadiana's Morning News Podcast, brought to you by LABI and always on KPEL965.com.
Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. You can always find people who are helping. Thank you to all the first responders who put their lives in danger to help us when my brothers and sisters and mom and dad and grandpa and grandma need them.
Thank you, first responders.
This is what I signed up for as a first responder. I am constantly worried about being exposed to this virus and potentially bringing it back to my home and my family. I'm going to continue going to work day in and day out and providing help to those that need it.
We look out for the helpers because they look out for us.
Thank you, first responders. Thank you, first responders.
Thank you, first responders. Love you. Mwah.
Be safe, look after yourself, and look after one another. Thanks.
Let's show up for first responders and their families. Go to firstrcf.org to find out how you can help today.
The entire world watched.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And humanity saw that the sky was not the limit. Achievement. Pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
For those fortunate enough to help the person who has always been their hero, find the care guides you need to help at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette. Broadcasting from the Matthew James Tax Pros studio. Find them online at matthewjamestaxpros.com.
Nikki Haley has made up her mind. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I will be voting for Trump.
After running against the former president, now 2 months after dropping out of the Republican race, Haley tells the Hudson Institute President Biden's a catastrophe on foreign policy and border security.
Trump would be smart to reach out to the millions of people who voted for me and continue to support me.
Now today, former President Trump will reach out to minority voters in a Democratic stronghold in New York City, the South Bronx.
That's a good step for him. Yeah, him coming here is going to bring light to the hood.
He has complained during his New York trial that he sees being made to sit in a courtroom as a conspiracy to keep him off the campaign trail. His planned appearance at a Bronx park is likely to be met with counter-protests. Democratic Congressman Richie Torres tells Fox News Digital that the South Bronx has, in his words, no greater enemy than the former president.
Fox's Gernal Scott, a disaster at a presidential candidate's rally in Mexico. Part of the stage collapsed. Lighting and roofing came crashing down, too. At least 9 people were killed, about 50 others injured, but not the candidate. Jorge Alvarez Maínez left unhurt. On Capitol Hill,
senators will face an important decision. Will both sides come together to advance a bipartisan border security bill, or will partisanship get in the way once again?
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer plans a vote today trying to revive a border security bill that stalled in February. Led by Trump opposition, Republicans say the bill that had the backing of some GOP senators did not go far enough dealing with record illegal immigration. Yet another Russian attack in Ukraine. Missiles hit the city of Kharkiv early today. 6 civilians were killed, at least 16 people injured. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called the attack extremely cruel, again calling for more air defense help from NATO countries. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now, and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
You know, we're so fortunate in this country to have a military that is 100% volunteer. Now, that's why Pure Talk proudly supports America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. If you make the switch on your cell phone, well, guess what? You're going to get Pure Talk's 5G network, unlimited talk and text, $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword save now for superior cell phone service, half the price of the big carriers, and you also help a vet in need.
Boeing is under even more scrutiny amid all the focus on its manufacturing safety lately.
Another fleet of Boeing planes is found to have a potentially dangerous flaw, problem that could set the aircraft on fire. Manufacturer discovering the Boeing 777 airliners have poor electrical insulation near its fuel tank, And according to an FAA directive, if the issue is not addressed, it could result in an ignition source in the fuel tank and subsequent fire or explosion. The concern affects about 300 of Boeing's aircraft across the U.S. Boeing, of course, has had numerous safety issues, including one where one of its planes lost a door on a 737 MAX 9 plane mid-flight. Sue Guzman, Fox News.
Now an update on that horrific flight the other day. Hit by turbulence so severe, one passenger was killed.
There are no life-threatening cases, but 40 people are being treated for spinal cord, brain and skull injuries. Half of them are in ICU. One 73-year-old man died when the Singapore Airlines flight from London hit extreme turbulence. It's thought he may have had a heart attack. Passengers have described sheer terror. One said everyone was bleeding. The plane diverted to Bangkok in Thailand. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is sending a team of 5 to help the investigation. That's because the aircraft was an American-made Boeing 777. Jonathan Savage, Fox News.
On Wall Street, stock futures rising modestly the day after selling dragged the Dow down 201 points. The Nasdaq lost 31. In the NBA playoffs,
Doncic fakes, bumps, fires, good. Big shots.
Luka Doncic scored 33 points to lead Dallas to a comeback win in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. The Mavericks beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 108-105 on TNT. On the ice, Florida shut out the New York Rangers 3-0 in the NHL Eastern Conference Final opener. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. That's a look at Temperature News, I'm Tracy Wirtz.
This hour of Acadiana's Morning News has been brought to you by Janny King. The King of Clean has been a leader in the cleaning industry on the Gulf Coast for over 35 years. To find out more about their cleaning and disinfecting services, head to their website at jannyking.com.
Party at Rock and Bowl all weekend, starting on Thursday with Jeffrey Broussard. Friday, The Good Dudes and Lovers. Saturday, Clay Cormier and the Highway Boys. Sunday, Gino Delavaz and French Rockin' Boogie. Tickets now at rockandbowl.com. God bless you, God love you, and thank God for you.
The Cajun Heartland State Fair is happening now. Through June 2nd, the fair is celebrating its 36th anniversary, and you can get the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack now. The Mega Pack includes 4 ride wristbands and 4 fair admission vouchers for only $125 each. And you can redeem them on any day of the fair that you choose. Save now when you score the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack. Just $125. Get yours today. You can buy the Mega Pack at the Cajun Dome box office or online at CajunDome.com. LUS presents the Cajun Heartland State Fair now through June 2nd at the Cajun Dome. Experience the wild rides on the Gold Star Midway or great bands nightly at the Coca-Cola Grandstand. Or check out the free family entertainment like Scott's World of Magic. Learn more at CajunDome.com or KPEL965.com and click on the Cajun Dome link. Brought to you by News Talk 96.5 KPEL, where Acadiana comes to talk.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
Okay, we do have an accident early this morning. North University and Baddow. So be careful in that area. Current temperature is 77 degrees. Good morning and welcome into Acadiana's Morning News Thursday, May 23rd. I know. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I am wonderful. Hope you are the same.
Well, you know, I woke up this morning and for whatever reason, I didn't realize that it was Thursday.
Man,
so imagine my surprise.
You have had daily, I don't know what the psychological term, you've been confusing your days here the last couple of weeks.
It's the move, Mark. I'm telling you. We're still dealing with that, and I hate to keep saying it, but I'm convinced that if we go to hell, our feet are going to hurt all the time. It's going to be filled with boxes, and you have no idea what's in them.
You're in a perpetual state of moving. You have to be constantly moving.
And you're going to stink all the time. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, it's pretty terrible. Oh, gosh. I don't stink this morning. I did bathe last night. Now, by the end of the day, well, all bets are off.
Yep.
Today is National Lucky Penny Day. Now, of course, the penny has gotten a bad rap, and of course, it's not worth much these days. I do keep them, and I do use them.
Yep.
But it's a day to celebrate Lucky Penny Day. That simple superstition about when you pick it up, find a penny, pick it up all day long, you'll have good luck.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how the little rhyme goes.
I thought it had to be the heads up.
It's supposed to be heads up, yeah. Okay. That's good luck, and if it's tails up, then you're not supposed to pick it up. I pick it up anyway.
Just pick it up and say good luck all day.
That's right. It's World Turtle Day, and let's see, it's National Taffy Day and Chardonnay Day. Maybe I should celebrate Chardonnay Day.
For the weekend, for sure.
Excuse me. Not a whole lot happened on this date in history. On this date in 2018, NFL owners approved a new policy allowing players to protest during the national anthem by staying in the locker room, but forbidding them from sitting or taking a knee if they are on the field. Amen. On this date in 1934, police killed Bonnie and Clyde. They were shot to death in an ambush right here in Louisiana, in Bienville Parish. And on this date in 1785, Benjamin Franklin announced his invention of bifocal glasses.
Go Benjamin.
Yeah. Speaking of bifocals, I wear cheaters all the time. The problem is, I say problem. What's good is my distance vision is 20/20. It's just when I'm on the computer or trying to read anything, I can't. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go to the eye doctor and I'm going to get some progressive lenses. Because my hair accessory has, over the last few years, become my glasses.
Okay.
Got the progressives, and it was a disaster.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Why? How so? Why so?
Well, my brain couldn't adjust. I'm a simple girl. And yeah, it was not pleasant. It was just not pleasant. I think part of it has to do with the fact that my distance vision is okay.
Yeah.
But when I would turn my head at all, I would just get extremely nauseated. So I went in, and speaking of bifocals, have decided that that's how I'm going to go. We'll see if that works now.
Good luck.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll just see me in cheaters every single day.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot to do this morning. Coming in, up at 7 o'clock, we have Lafayette Live. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco-Boulet will join us. She has a full slate of topics that we're going to talk about. And then in the 8 o'clock hour, we are joined by our law enforcement folks, Lafayette PD at 8:05. And then we will talk to Iberia Parish Sheriff Tommy Romero. So a lot of things happening this morning. Make sure you keep it here. KPEL News Time is 6:17.
Fox on Tech. NASA says its new Star Trek-y-looking engine is working, pushing a spacecraft into deeper space. Last October, NASA launched a probe called Psyche. It's traveling to an asteroid also named Psyche. And while NASA used rockets to get it from the launch pad in Florida to space, NASA now is making the probe turn on its ion propulsion in order to head to deep space. Ion propulsion is an emerging technology where electricity is used to charge xenon gas, expelling atoms as exhaust. Not only does it push forward, it glows bright blue like something on a sci-fi TV show. As of now, Psyche is traveling at a speed of 84,000 miles an hour. NASA says Psyche is currently more than 190 million miles from Earth, and even though it will accelerate to speeds of nearly 125,000 miles an hour, it will still be another 5 years before it reaches its asteroid. With Fox on Tech, I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
Media Minute with Howard Kurtz.
The campaign headlines are heating up. Donald Trump accusing President Biden of the unthinkable. Joe Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out and put my family in danger. This on the search warrant for the raid on Mar-a-Lago, authorized by a court, said the FBI is authorized to use deadly, lethal force. But the FBI says President Biden had nothing to do with this. It's a standardized form, always required in case agents come under fire, need to defend themselves. Meanwhile, Biden is accusing Trump of echoes of Nazi Germany. This after a repost of some random person's future headlines about a Trump victory would lead to a unified Reich, as in Third Reich. But Donald Trump was in court that day, and a staffer who reposted this didn't catch the reference. Only 6 months to go till Election Day. With your Media Minute, Howie Kurtz, Fox News.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We are showing that accident, University Avenue, North University, and Batto in Lafayette. Be careful in that area. Current temperature 77 degrees. KPEL News Time is 6:23 on this Thursday morning. Tracy Wirtz and Mark Pope joining you. The border security bill, the Senate has one, and we'll talk to somebody who is following it and find out exactly what it's about and what he projects, or how he projects to see it evolve or pass or not. Meanwhile, stateside, Governor Landry and State Superintendent of Education Cade Brumley unveiled recommendations yesterday to support public school teachers and students. It's called the Let Teachers Teach Work Group that focused on identifying classroom disruptions and ways to unburden teachers from having unrealistic expectations, putting practical solutions in place. A couple of the things that Dr. Cade Brumley suggested were removing cell phones and students who misbehave from the classroom. In a quote, he says, placing ungovernable students in the middle and high school level at alternative sites so that they are not on site to continue to disrupt the teachers and the other students from learning. And I don't think that it exists now, but I remember when I was in school, that's what happened. The students who were perpetual discipline problems, there was, and they called it the alternative school. I like the idea because I think that that's a tough age, Mark. That is a tough age.
Oh, yeah. Yep, I agree. And the cell phones, I thought we had something in place about cell phones.
Well, each school, I think, decides differently. And there has been some pushback about disallowing cell phones like they can't turn them on.
Right.
They typically can have them with them. They just aren't supposed to turn them on or use them.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen that way, but that's what's supposed to happen. And some parents, frankly, have said, it concerns me if my child doesn't have his or her cell phone on them because, I think that they're very nervous. You hear about school shootings, you hear about all these things. What if something happens and then my child doesn't have a way to reach out to me or to somebody else?
Yeah.
And that may or may not be a valid argument, but that is the argument from parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they can be used to cheat. They can be a distraction to the child. So I understand both sides.
Yeah. We managed to get through school without cell phones.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's a different, honestly, it's a different time,
And, yeah. And everybody has them in the instant communication thing. And I understand both sides. But I like the initiative of Governor Landry and Cade Brumley, superintendent of
Dr. Cade Brumley. He's the superintendent
education.
at Louisiana State Superintendent of Education. Moon's talked to him several times. He has been a proponent of the ESA program and different things, and he's been in. I don't know exactly how long, but he's been in for a few years, and has worked especially hard over the last couple of years to try to decrease the disruptions for teachers.
I like this simplicity of Dr. Brumley's quote. Students should have access to mental health, but teachers should be focused on ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, not being forced to being mental health professionals.
Right.
Amen, Superintendent.
I agree with that. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this bears out, if it will just be recommendations, if it will be mandates at the local level. So more to be told as we go through. KPEL News Time is 6:27. Monday is the unofficial start of summer, but it's also the end of Home Furniture's big Memorial Day savings event going on right now. You still have time, so you might want to run over there this weekend. The biggest and best furniture and mattress savings ever, and low payments. Get this, a queen bed as low as $9 a month. A reclining sofa, aren't those fantastic? From just $15 a month. A plush sectional as low as $36 a month. Amazing deals, plus up to 60 months special financing and no money down and next day delivery. I love that. You don't have to bring a truck. You don't have to bring friends. They'll bring it to your house. See store for details. Hurry, the Memorial Day sales end Monday at Home Furniture Plus Bedding. Remember, they have locations across South Louisiana, and make sure you go by their brand new location to see this beautiful furniture in person. The new location is right on Johnston Street across from the mall and next to Mazin Grill. Home furniture plus bedding, their big Memorial Day savings event going on right now.
KPEL covers Acadiana with Lowry's Printing and Copying.
Registration for Games of Acadiana, Acadiana's ultimate scavenger hunt, is now open. The virtual scavenger hunt is free with over 75 missions or adventures available, and it's great fun for the entire family. Get more details at milesperret.org/GOA. 2024 Sheriff Mark Garber Youth Golf Tournament, 2 days, Wednesday, June 26th and Thursday, June 27th. The 26th for 6 to 11-year-olds and the 27th accommodates 12 to 17-year-olds. All the activities of the tournament are free. It's at the Hebert Municipal Golf Course on Mudd Avenue. There are also free instructional clinics Tuesday, June 18th through June 20th. Get more details about this great golf tournament. You get a T-shirt, drinks, and lunch for the kids. Call 337-456-6596.
This is House Call for Health. As people fire up their grills for Memorial Day weekend and summer cookouts, a health expert has some cooking tips for a safe and tasty holiday. Alexis Supan is a registered dietitian with Cleveland Clinic and says it's critical to keep raw meats away from other foods, such as fruits and veggies. To avoid the transferring of any harmful bacteria between foods, they recommend using a separate cutting board for each item. When grilling, try to prevent the juices from the meat from dripping and mixing with other foods. Supan says have a meat thermometer nearby to make sure all meat is cooked properly, but don't overcook because charring can produce cancer-causing chemicals. Wash your hands frequently. And to store the food, Supan says her best tip for leftovers is to put them in a glass or ceramic airtight container. If you do that, she says they can be good for up to 3 to 4 days in the refrigerator. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health on Lisa Brady, Fox News.
This hour brought to you by the Matthew James Tax Pros. Find them online at MatthewJamesTaxPros.com.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wertz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Acadia Parish Sheriff K.P. Gibson says his investigators, in conjunction with Louisiana State Police, have been working to solve several cold cases. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. The Superdome Commission says the Saints are behind on their payments in helping to fund the ongoing renovation of the Caesars Superdome. The general manager of ASM Global, Evan Holmes, says the Saints owe $11.5 million as they have not made a payment since December. Holmes says the delinquent payments have not stopped the $450 million renovation, and there's been no word from the Saints on why they are not paying their part. The LSU Tigers baseball team routed Kentucky Wednesday afternoon 11-0. Jared Jones and Tommy White each hit grand slams during the 8-innings game. Luke Holman pitched 6 hitless innings. The Tigers play the South Carolina Gamecocks at 4:30 this afternoon. Both teams are playing their third game in as many days. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirtz.
Pack your bags. We want to send you and a guest to experience the magic of Def Leppard's Summer Stadium Rock Tour this August. We want to fly you and a guest to San Antonio, Texas, where you'll see Def Leppard, Journey, and the Steve Miller Band in concert at the one and only Alamo Dome. What do you need to do? It's simple. Just listen to News Talk 96.5 KPEL weekdays for the codes you'll need to enter. Every day between now and June 7th at 9, 12, and 3 p.m., you're going to get a code. Enter that into the KPEL app, and you've got a chance to win. You'll get 2 tickets to see Def Leppard with Journey and the Steve Miller Band at the Alamo Dome on Friday, August 16th. Round-trip airfare for 2 to San Antonio, a 2-night hotel stay, and $500 spending money. If you don't have the KPEL app, you need to download it immediately. Listen every day at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 3 p.m. for your chance to win tickets to the Summer Stadium Rock Tour with Def Leppard and Journey on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Did you know that every year 1,100 to 1,200 children are experiencing homelessness in Lafayette Parish? The Gifting Grace Project, Acadiana's homeless children's outreach, works to provide and support these children throughout the year. Every donation goes to support these children and provide them with backpacks with school supplies, hygiene products, snacks, and more. Go to giftinggraceproject.com to learn more information or text GGP to 53555 and donate today. Thank you.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
Still showing that accident, North University and Batto in Lafayette. Be careful out there. 77 degrees. KPEL News Time is 6:39, and Mark, we're playing Dirty Deeds.
In honor of. There
yes.
you go.
Bob Carricker, who usually joins us on Thursdays, and you reminded me that he's out for a couple of weeks. School ended, and he's having some fun.
Yep.
He'll join us when he gets back. We were talking before the break about the Let Teachers Teach initiative. It was a work group that was put together, and I found the document that lists the people that were involved in this particular work group. Several parishes were represented, including Evangeline Parish, Renee Gautreaux from Evangeline Parish, and Gladys Melanson from St. Landry Parish. All over the state, really. Tia Trahan was there from Lafayette Parish. So, from north, northeast, northwest, south, just all over Louisiana. And interesting recommendations, very specific recommendations in the document. Professional learning, tailor professional growth plans, make collaboration meetings worthwhile. Oh, isn't that horrible when you sit in a meeting and you're thinking, oh, that could have been an email. Ensure ample time for classroom preparation. The required trainings for teachers, this particular panel said, shift legislatively mandated trainings to a cycle and enact pre-test exemptions from required trainings. Student behavior and discipline, decouple student behavior and the school accountability system. I think that is important because right now, if the children misbehave, then that goes into accountability.
Yeah.
Trust us, don't blame us. Place ungovernable students at alternative sites for behavior support. Now, we talked about the alternative schools, and interestingly, Debster, who is one of our app chatters, said that, yes, the alternative places exist, and they are at capacity.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know, I believe it.
Sure.
Kids just are not behaved these days.
And look, I like the initiative. The governor and the superintendent of education like their initiative, but imagine that. Common sense. Mm-hmm. And the article also states on the Louisiana News Network that there would be some things that would require state legislation, but a lot of what's being called for with the recommendations could be implemented on a district by district, school districts, school systems, right. That type of basis. So, look, I like all the efforts to try to improve education in Louisiana. It is, Lord knows, it's sorely needed. So,
Some of the other suggestions address challenges of chronic absenteeism. Here's the limit cell phone use. They say devices should be off and put away throughout the instructional day. Most schools require that. Yep. Now, do students follow the rules? Probably not. The non-academic responsibilities for teachers should be support student mental health challenges, but do that through trained professionals versus having the teachers have to have that training, and stop forcing, it says, to teachers to be mental health professionals. Pay teachers for additional non-academic work. In terms of curriculum and instruction, eliminate the mandate to read verbatim from teaching manuals, excluding direct instruction. Create a repository of high quality, easy to access teacher resources, and provide scheduling, pacing, and implementation guidance for core content areas. And the final two deal with planning. Effective teachers should have professional autonomy in their classrooms. That is something that they have asked for years. And abolish antiquated lesson planning requirements. So and they dive into exactly what each of those means. That's the topic of each of them. And look, you said a phrase, Mark, that absolutely 100% applies here, and that's common sense.
Mm-hmm.
I understand efforts to get a lot of this stuff in control, and a lot of times teaching is like herding cats. But I think that the state went about it incorrectly when they put out these mandates for teachers, when it said you have to do this in the classroom, you have to do that in the classroom, you have to whatever. And we got away from reading, writing, arithmetic, which is where teachers focus should be, and students for that matter. Mm-hmm. But so I'm really glad they came up with this. I'm interested to see if it will continue to just live on paper or if there will be some practical applications.
Let us hope.
Yeah.
I long for the old-timey days when I was in school. If I acted up, teachers called my parents put me in my place. problem solved.
Oh, yeah.
That is not so simple these days.
Yeah. If you were called to the principal's office, you weren't scared of the principal. You were scared of your daddy or your mama coming up there.
The aftermath.
Yes. KPEL News Time is 6:45. We'll talk Trump trial next.
Democracy 24.
Former President Trump has made it clear he would like to debate President Biden early and often. But before any debate, Mr. Trump says he wants to make sure his opponent is clean.
I'm going to demand a drug test here, by the way. I am. No, I really am.
A White House spokesman says Republicans are confusing the president's confidence for a drug. Then there's independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is fighting to get into the debates. RFK Jr. cites polling suggesting self-described Republicans and Democrats only make up 54% of the country, arguing that he represents a huge voting bloc.
The independents represent 43%. Oh, don't you think that there should be an independent on the stage?
In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Acadiana drivers, did you know that bicycles are considered vehicles under Louisiana law? Cyclists have the right to use the roadway same as motor vehicles. You're urged to share the road by giving a buffer zone of at least 3 feet when passing a cyclist. Yield to cyclists as you would another motorist. And remember, a cyclist does not have the protection of a vehicle if they're in a crash. Protect your fellow citizens on bicycles. This announcement was brought to you by Bike Lafayette. Learn more at bikelafayette.org.
Prescription drug pricing points to corporate mountain.
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
And Clark sheer athleticism.
It's about your right to be informed. Today, there are real threats to press freedom.
Reaching residential areas.
And your right to know about the world around us. We must protect our right to know, no matter what kind of news is important to you. Before it's too late, understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org. Securing America.
A Wednesday hearing before Senate Appropriations Subcommittee focused on the security of the U.S. Capitol and budget funding for the Capitol Police Department for fiscal year 2025. U.S. Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger says the good news is
I can confidently tell you the Capitol is safer today than it was prior to January 6th.
The bad.
Our country is in the midst of a historical rise in threats.
The chief explaining the difference in incidents his officers are facing and investigating.
Over the past year, we've seen a dangerous rise in acts of violence against members of Congress, their families, and staff.
He says that the challenge for his department, therefore, is rising.
I think what we have in place is working, but it's the volume that we've got to address.
Which is why he testified getting full funding and an increase in staff is crucial.
We've got a good system. We just need more people.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
Looks like things are clearing up on the roadways. Current temperature is 77 degrees. KPEL News Time is 6:51 on this Thursday, May 23rd. You may have seen yesterday that Nikki Haley says she will vote for Donald Trump, which is interesting. She fell short, though, of giving him a full endorsement. Meanwhile, he is still climbing the trial mountain hill and dealing with all of that. Mark, you had some information on exactly where we are because yesterday there was a hearing.
I don't know about the hearing, I think, has to do with briefing the attorneys. So before the jurors, if you will, are informed. They're in recess. The trial is in recess, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And this is not just Mark Pope talking.
Right.
This is what I'm hearing from legal experts. It doesn't make sense the way they're doing it. I don't like this judge. I can't name him. I'm sure in this article I have up from Newsweek, his name is in there, but he's very, how shall we say, he seems to have an extreme bias. So here's the deal. The defense, the Trump defense, if you will, the lawyers wanted to bring in an expert witness.
Right.
That person is the name of Bradley Smith. Bradley Smith is the former Election Commission chairman.
Okay.
Federal Election Commission, who agreed to provide expert testimony in the Donald Trump trial. He criticized Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg. Why? Because here is the statement or a summary of the statement from Smith. He told Newsweek that he decided to become an expert witness in the Trump case, because he believes, quote, the legal theory on which the prosecution rests regarding possible Federal Election Commission violations is wrong. And this is an issue I care deeply about. So what does all that mean? Alvin Bragg is trying to take what would be a misdemeanor. This is not a, quote, hush money trial. It has to do with filing of 34 documents, and Alvin Bragg, the DA in New York, is claiming that the Trump camp, if you will, falsified business records related to, quote, a hush money payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels. Well, quote, hush money is not illegal.
Right.
And here's the thing. The FEC, the Federal Election Commission, and I would assume Mr. Smith was head of the Federal Election Commission at the time, they examined this case and they said, no, there's no violation here.
Right.
There's no violation here. So look, I don't want to go any deeper than that because it's extremely complicated. But this judge who's overseeing the case, who allowed Stormy Daniels to be a witness and then said, she said a lot of things that didn't need to be said that I wish she hadn't have said.
Yeah.
Because it got very graphic. All right. So
yes,
this judge denied Bradley Smith to be an expert witness, saying you would confuse the jury. Well, duh, it's a complicated situation. He would allow him, Bradley Smith, the former head of the Federal Election Commission, to come in and talk about terms and definitions of the Federal Election Commission, but not specifically about the Donald Trump case. And to me, I see an extreme bias in this case.
I would agree.
And it is being called by many legal experts. Again, I'm not making that judgment. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a constitutional scholar. They are saying that this is a show trial. It is the political party in power going against a political opponent. That's the way they operate in banana republics, Tracy. And we're not a banana republic. We might be slowly turning that way. It's frustrating, and our justice system is not, in many cases, fair and just.
Well, and it's kind of like Chicken Little, They have thrown so much at Donald Trump and said he's guilty of this, he's guilty of this, he's guilty of this. It's like playing whack-a-mole, and that's what and there's no mole.
Yeah.
And they've the outcry from the left and from Donald Trump's opposition has been so abundant and loud that we're shrugging it off, and now it's like a gnat. And this one just seems to be a little bit bigger, and it's time for it to go away. Whether or not, here's the thing, whether or not he's guilty of anything, you can't just throw things at people and see what sticks.
Right. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that's the exact terminology that all these legal experts, the one I like the most, Jonathan Turley, is a constitutional scholar and a law professor at George Washington University. And remember what Alvin Bragg is trying to do. He's trying to make it a crime, what do we call? You have a misdemeanor and But anyway, it is not a crime. It is a misdemeanor. If Mr. Trump is found guilty of that, he would pay a fine and we would move on. So this Bradley Smith FEC says, I wanted to address this, but the judge would not allow it.
We've got to look at national news from Fox. Coming up, KPEL News Time 6:57.
The Fox Business Report is brought to you by Gulf Coast Bank, your local community bank. Whether your financial needs are for an individual, a business, or for the whole family, Gulf Coast Bank has the knowledge and products to serve you best. With 9 convenient locations throughout Acadiana, you're never far from a friendly Gulf Coast Bank associate.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Chip maker NVIDIA reported record revenue and profit for its recent quarter. Revenue tripled, net profit jumped more than 7 times year-ago numbers. NVIDIA makes artificial intelligence chips used in data centers. NVIDIA's stock price has more than tripled in the past year. The company will split its stock 10-for-1 effective June 7th, and it's raising the dividend it pays investors. News Corp, parent company of the Wall Street Journal, has a major content licensing agreement with OpenAI, creator of the ChatGPT virtual assistant. OpenAI will use content from News Corp to answer questions from ChatGPT users and will use it to train its technology. News Corp is a sister company of Fox News. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola, invested in you.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette.
A red rally in a blue city. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former President Trump will campaign today in the South Bronx of New York City.
Come to the park and, keep it real with the people.
Black people and Hispanic people are very happy about him coming here, and they want to see the options, and they want to put pressure on Democrats to step their game up.
And some will in that Democratic stronghold. They're planning a Trump isn't welcome in the Bronx counter rally. A Trump Republican opponent who ran against him now says she will vote for him.
Biden has been a catastrophe.
Nikki Haley tells the Hudson Institute more than 2 months after dropping out of the GOP presidential race, the former president should reach out to her supporters.
And not assume that they're just going to be with him. And I genuinely hope he does that.
A recent Siena poll gives President Biden a 9-point lead in New York. Another poll gives him a 1-point lead nationally, and it also shows
1 in 5 voters right now say they could change their minds about who they will support in a new Quinnipiac poll. In a two-way race, Biden supporters are more likely than Trump's to look elsewhere.
Fox's Peter Ducey at the White House, where today the president will host Kenya's president for talks. In the Senate, Democrats will try to revive a stalled border security bill they say makes important changes to deal with record illegal immigration. Republicans say it doesn't go far enough. Elvis won't be leaving the building.
I'm all shook up.
Well, not anymore. An auction of his Graceland estate's been called off today.
Just hours after a Tennessee judge ordered a pause on the foreclosure sale of Elvis Presley's iconic Memphis home, Nisani Investments told Reuters it plans to withdraw all of its claims over Graceland. The company, with no website or working phone number, claimed it loaned the king of rock and roll's only daughter, Lisa Marie Presley, $3.8 million and received the deed for Graceland as collateral.
That's Fox's Dana Marie McNichol. Presley's granddaughter challenged that, claiming it was fraud, and the FBI is looking into it. America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now, and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
You know, we're so fortunate in this country to have a military that is 100% volunteer. Now, that's why Pure Talk proudly supports America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. If you make the switch on your cell phone, well, guess what? You're going to get Pure Talk's 5G network, unlimited talk and text, $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword save now for superior cell phone service, half the price of the big carriers, and you also help a
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the Cape Hill News app. Now the headlines from the Cape Hill News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wertz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wertz. Your KPEL News Update brought to you by Home Furniture Plus Bedding with over 40,000 furniture and mattress choices in stock. Take a look at homefern.com.
The Cajun Heartland State Fair is happening now through June 2nd. The fair is celebrating its 36th anniversary, and you can get the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack now. The Mega Pack includes 4 ride wristbands and 4 fair admission vouchers for only $125 each. And you can redeem them on any day of the fair that you choose. Save now when you score the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack. Just $125. Get yours today. You can buy the Mega Pack at the Cajun Dome box office or online at CajunDome.com. LUS presents the Cajun Heartland State Fair now through June 2nd at the Cajun Dome. Experience the wild rides on the Gold Star Midway or great bands nightly at the Coca-Cola Grandstand. Or check out the free family entertainment like Scott's World of Magic. Learn more at CajunDome.com or KPEL965.com and click on the Cajun Dome link. Brought to you by News Talk 96.5 KPEL, where Acadiana comes to talk.
Media Media Minute with Howard Kurtz.
The campaign headlines are heating up. Donald Trump accusing President Biden of the unthinkable. Joe Biden was locked and loaded, ready to take me out and put my family in danger. This on the search warrant for the raid on Mar-a-Lago, authorized by a court, said the FBI is authorized to use deadly, lethal force. But the FBI says President Biden had nothing to do with this. It's a standardized form, always required in case agents come under fire, need to defend themselves. Meanwhile, Biden is accusing Trump of echoes of Nazi Germany. This after a repost of some random person's future headlines about a Trump victory would lead to a unified Reich, as in Third Reich. But Donald Trump was in court that day, and a staffer who reposted this didn't catch the reference. Only 6 months to go till Election Day. With your Media Minute, Howie Kurtz, Fox News.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
No accidents on the roadways. That's good news. Current temperature is 77 degrees. KPEL News Time, 7:11.
From the nation's capital and the military district of Washington, today's colors will be presented by the Armed Forces Color Guard and Drummers and the President's own United States Marine Band. To honor America with the performance of the national anthem, 8-time Grammy Award winner, Chris Stapleton.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light? Oh, so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. Oh, the ramparts we walked were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular upon bird singing up, yeah, through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good morning and welcome into Acadiana's morning news. KBEL News Time is 7:14. It's time for Lafayette Live. Joining us this morning is Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet. Good morning.
Good morning, Tracy. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
All right, so we're going to just hop right in and talk about last week's storms, but kind of where we are in the recovery process. And yesterday, was it yesterday you declared a state of emergency?
Yes.
Explain where we are and what that means.
So whenever a storm happens, there are certain criteria you meet for the feds to declare that, where you will get support from the federal government. And then there's another level, a tier, I guess, with the state. And so this storm did not meet federal criteria, but it did meet state criteria. And the new governor and his administration have put certain conditions in to even qualify for state support. So we did qualify for state support, but we had to declare a state of emergency. And so we did that yesterday.
Okay.
I know that we've already added up over $1 million of effort going into, the response and now the recovery. And we're not finished. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to recapture some of that funding is why we declared that yesterday.
Now, I know that there was damage across Lafayette Parish. Do you know where we are in that process of cleanup?
So right now it's really the debris pickup, and we have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know we met yesterday, and we're increasing the load we're asking our contractors to pick up. Mm-hmm. We're adding more trucks on the road. I saw one in my neighborhood this morning. It's coming. The storms, the wind, what we experienced were hurricane strength winds, mm-hmm. and the damage really came from the trees. And that's why we had so many outages. When the trees start falling, they're pulling the wires down, or even the poles. We lost some poles too. And that was the difficulty in the response, and we love our trees.
Uh-huh. Right.
I live in one of those old neighborhoods because of the trees.
Right.
But in a storm, they really they create the challenge. And so picking up all that debris is where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Mayor, let me ask you, you mentioned $1 million, and does that mean that you're bringing in subcontractors, if you will, in addition to Acadiana Waste Service to help get the debris up in a more expeditious way?
Yes, we actually had we bid a contract previously, and Republic was the low bid. So Republic is helping in this effort. You'll see some Republic trucks out there, but we're also increasing our contract with AWS to help support that as well. So, and we have our public works guys. So it's all hands on deck trying to pick up that debris,
Now, I know we want to talk about the Youth Advisory Council, but this kind of leads us into the Emergency Preparedness Workshop and the LUS Major Storm Tabletop topic that you have. Tell us what that's about.
So two things this week that were planned before last week's storms.
Okay.
Yesterday, we pulled all of our government entities together into a workshop with GOSEP. Mm-hmm. And they come in and they start asking critical questions. And what they did was present us with the storm that hit Lake Charles. It was a Category 2.
Yeah.
And I mean, you really have to stop and think. It was just a 2 that destroyed Lake Charles. Mm-hmm. It was not a 3 or a 4 when it hit Lake Charles. It was a 2. And we are vulnerable for that. It could have hopped. The storms hop. And so we had to think through, as a government, all of our first responders, everybody was, we must have had about 50 or 60 people there. What are our gaps? And we've never been tested as a community, so we have some gaps.
Yeah.
You've met Christina Davies.
Oh, yeah.
Christina comes out of GOSEP, and so Christina is in charge of getting us as prepared as possible as we enter hurricane season. And it could be a hurricane. It could be another one of these little thunderstorms.
I was going to say last week was kind of a practice run, unfortunately, for a lot of us. I think the difference is that with a hurricane, you have time, know it's coming.
You have 4 days.
Right. We knew that storms were coming. The meteorologists were very judicious in their communications that this could be bad. unfortunately, I don't think people take those warnings as seriously as they need to.
Well, they asked me. They showed the storm right in the middle of the Gulf, and they said, "Do you evacuate right now?" And I was like, nobody's leaving right now.
Right.
We have seen that storm sitting in the middle of the Gulf so many times. Mm-hmm. But so what do you start talking about the people who rely on electricity for their medical care, that need, that have some kind of medical machines, and the you start talking to the most vulnerable,
right, about
where are you going, what is your plan, how do we get you moving first, and then do we ever evacuate as a city? We might,
right,
we haven't, because we haven't had to. We haven't been tested. And so it was an interesting exercise. It really put us all through the thought process of what happens when it's sitting there with the target right on Lafayette, which, again, I'm going to say has happened before.
Right.
And we had our little angels, I guess.
We prayed those rosaries.
Right.
Let me say a little something in addition to what Tracy made a good point, and you elaborated on it, Mayor, in that this storm was different. This was more of a spring storm, with the cooler weather meeting up with the warmer weather. And if I recall, the forecast for this storm we were in the moderate risk area. And with a hurricane, when I was in the environmental division, and Bess Foray, my successor, may be listening, in that with hurricanes, when it's projected to come toward Lafayette, emergency response contractors are on standby.
Yes.
And that really, that's a difficult thing to do with these type of storms where you really don't know the track. And it's somewhat unpredictable. So this was, and a meteorologist said, we rarely get these type of storms, but to get two in 1 week is really, I think this particular meteorologist said it's unprecedented.
Yeah, and I remember walking in Monday night, I turned on the news, and when I realized it was in Crowley, and I was like, this thing's coming.
Yeah.
We had no notice. And the one difference is these storms lasted 30, 45 minutes, where a hurricane might give us 4 to 6 hours of those intense winds.
Right.
So, it's a little bit different, but not in that 30 to 45 minutes, it did a lot of damage.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
Absolutely. And so that's the other real objective of yesterday. So we did that yesterday with all of the government entities. And then today, LUS is doing it with their team.
Okay.
They have critical response. They are the ones that get us back going the fastest. Without that electricity, it's paralyzing. Right. And so they have their own, they were at the table with us yesterday, but they also have their own strike teams it's really making sure the relationships are there, the communications are there. Who do we call for this? Who's on standby for that? But really trying to, we never will have it all perfect, right? We will never have everything in line, but as much as we can get thought through in advance, the better. And then also, Mark, set up those contracts that need to be set up so we don't have to have delays for bidding or, those kinds of things. If those relationships, those contractual relationships are in place, we can have people sitting outside of the storm waiting immediately to enter.
Yeah.
Well, one more thing pertaining to maintenance of the Lafayette is a heavily wooded city, the tree canopy. And throughout the year, both you have a team at Lafayette Utility System that does tree trimming, and you also, I do believe there's probably still a contract in place with a company called Asplin, and they go around and do tree trimming. So to have, and what that means is getting those branches out of the electrical lines,
right,
to be able to minimize damage to the electrical grid when a storm does hit. So that maintenance with both LUS and Asplin goes on year round.
Yeah, and I am two-sided on that. I love our trees, especially those beautiful oaks, and it does hurt me sometimes to see them trimmed the way they're trimmed. But at the same time, especially in hurricane season, it can make the difference of 2 or 3 days of electricity. And I think that we all know what it is to go without electricity. And when you hit that third day, somebody said yesterday, after You can go 32 hours, but at 34 hours, you're getting hangry.
Oh, yeah. You're getting hangry and you're getting hot.
Yeah.
And that is not a good
combo.
There's
combination.
some tipping point where it's done.
No. That's right. Boy, no kidding. And you look, we can all think back about times that happened, and as I think back, like on Lily in the early 2000s, the thing that stands out the most in my mind is that the time without electricity for those folks who were really affected was long. And now, I don't know if it's technology, I don't know if it's the grid infrastructure, what. Even if someone goes without electricity for 5 days, if that had happened then, it was 10 days. The response has improved so much over the years.
And I will say this, LUS has very strategically built resilience into our system or redundancy. If it is possible, it's like a big circle. And if you have a break on this end, they just shoot that electricity the other way to you. And there's so many circles within our system.
Right.
But if a tree falls down and pulls a pole down, that's a whole nother incident. You can't just shoot the electricity. You have to go physically. And some of the poles are behind our houses. Those, you have to get behind somebody's house. You have to get into the trees and into the forest sometimes, right? And it's just, it's hard. I was with the crews on Saturday morning, and it was a mess what they were trying to straighten out. And we actually had Entergy lines mixed in, and it takes time, and you don't want to destroy people's property. We really want to go in there and do it, very mindfully.
Right.
And so it does. Those kind of become the tail end. It's get as many up as you can on the front end, address the simpler issues, and then those more complex situations with the trees and the poles and that, we finish up the response with those. And, I do have to thank all of the Public Works, LUS, everybody across the board really stepped up. We have great resources in Lafayette. We have great people. Not to mention, we are the best place to live in Louisiana. Let me throw that in.
Oh, yeah.
Let me just get my little dig.
No pressure, though, to keep it that way,
A friend of mine from New Orleans sent me an Instagram post, and it said, at NOLA, what do we think about that? And so I was reading the comments. Yeah, they got their, feelings a little touched on. We are a great place to live.
That's right.
And we are, I'll take it, the best in Louisiana. But we do have great resources. And in fact, I did an interview yesterday with a media outlet out of Baton Rouge on the designation of being the best place. And I think a lot of it does come to LUS Fiber, the quality of life with that those resources bring us. It does make a difference when you don't have internet issues or electrical. When those things work well. Now, mix that in with our people, and there's the magic, right? Our people really, I don't have to sell us on ourselves. I think we know.
Sure. What organization made that designation of best city in Louisiana?
I think it was
U.S. News. Yeah, U.S. News and World Report. Yeah.
All right.
We have the article, by the way, if you want to look at it
at
our website.
We didn't do it, Mark.
I shall.
We didn't do it.
No, I know. That's not how
it's
not system
self-proclaimed.
Didn't know they were measuring.
Yeah.
Obviously, somebody came for a visit.
Right.
We need to take a break right now, check out some news, and we'll be back with more Lafayette Live with Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet. And we have the Youth Advisory Council. We'll talk about that coming up. KPEL News Time 7:28.
Have you noticed bad behavior has become normalized at interscholastic athletic events? Some fans seem angry. They lack civility toward one another. Some even get aggressive and unruly. Time out. What is going on? This has to stop. Let's not forget, school sports aren't just about winning. And they're definitely not an excuse to take your frustrations out on the official or the opponent. They're about teaching lessons like perseverance, respect, and empathy. so students can learn and grow as people, not just as players. We all have a role to play in setting a good example for our students and teaching them these important values. So fans, it's time to step up your game and behave positively at interscholastic athletic events in Louisiana.
This message presented by the LHSAA and the Louisiana High School Athletic Directors Association.
From the moments that shape our lives to those that shape our days, broadcasters are there, delivering the most trusted news that keeps you informed when it matters. We are your neighbors, a trusted voice, a lifeline. We are broadcasters. Text TV to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
This hour brought to you by the Matthew James Tax Pros. Find them online at MatthewJamesTaxPros.com.
Your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the Cape Hill News app. Now the headlines from the Cape Hill News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco-Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirt.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Looking to get help with Montag, Lieben, Glauben, Globen.
KPEL News Time is 7:39 on this Thursday morning. It is Lafayette Live. In with us this morning is Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet, and somebody who is always here, but you don't hear from her, Kaylee Desatel. Kaylee, you get to step up to the mic this morning because we want you to talk about the Mayor President's Youth Advisory Council. Tell us what that is. And wait, let me turn you on. Okay, now they can hear you.
Yes, the Mayor President's Youth Advisory Council is open to all high school students in Lafayette Parish, so anyone between the grades 9th and 12th. So we have applications live on our website right now. They're open until June 15th. And this council was started a couple administrations ago, and it's really just a good opportunity for high school students across the parish to engage in civic leadership, really learn about local government, and just give them an opportunity to network with the elected officials and members of the administration. But most importantly, we want to hear from their perspective. You know, what are the 16, 17, 18-year-olds in the parish thinking about? You know, what issues are important to them? And so that's the main purpose of the council. And we're excited. Applications close on June 15th, and then we'll kick it off again in August when they go back to school.
Okay, so they put in applications. How long are they on the council?
For the academic school year.
Okay, got it. All right. That's pretty neat. Because, you know, as I think about it and as you were talking about it, we always say the children are our future, and it just seems like a catchphrase, but it really is. They are the people that need to have the vision for where Lafayette's going.
Yeah, Kaylee had this past group in a few weeks ago, and that's what I told them. We're building the community you're going to live in and work in. So get engaged. You know, think about the things we need to put in place. The other thing is it takes time for government to, you know, if we build something, it takes years, 3 to 5 years, I would say probably average for a project. So start thinking through what are those things this community needs. And from a young person's perspective, we all want our young people to stay or to come back. And so we're thinking about it from that perspective as well. And they bring that. They really are very thoughtful young people with a lot of opinions. So it's a fun engagement.
So what does that council look like? Do they sit with you? Do they sit with someone in your office? How does the process work?
Yeah, so they meet monthly, once a month for an hour in the evening, you know, after school. And we kind of met with them, I think 3 times since we came in. And the mayor president actually sat down with them last week or maybe week before for their last meeting of the school year. And our goal is to really bring in someone from each department each week, you know, really let them get an understanding of LCG, how the consolidated city parish government works. Believe it or not, that's not something a lot of kids learn about in their high school civics class.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Exposing them to that, you know, none of them or most of them aren't quite old enough to vote yet, but they're approaching that age. So just really exposing them to that atmosphere, teaching them, and then hearing from them as well.
How many participants did you have in this last cohort?
So we inherited the last cohort,
right, yes.
and there were about 10 of them. But we're hoping to grow the council this year and expand that a little bit.
So Kaylee is a counselor for Louisiana Girl State.
Nice.
So
I loved Girl State,
This
by the
is
way,
not going to be
100 years
Girl
ago.
State, but I've asked Kaylee to take some of the things that they do, you know, to help get our young people thinking and active and involved.
No, that is a great suggestion. I mean, I know that I learned a lot about state government when I went to Girl State and you bring up such a good point because each of the cities operates differently.
Yeah,
you know,
well,
like
especially
you have,
Lafayette.
Right, exactly. You know, you have a consolidated government, LCG. You've got Lawrence Act in some. You have other cities that have their own charters. So I think it's critical for not just children, but people to understand why things happen in Lafayette the way they do versus why they happen in Abbeville or Crowley or Opelousas the way they do.
Yeah. Yeah, and then how to make things happen, how to engage with your government.
Without a doubt. Okay, so tell us the application process again.
So the applications are available on the LCG website, LafayetteLA.gov. They close on June 15th. It's a pretty simple application, just with your basic information, your parents' information. I think there's 4 questions the students have to answer, and then they do have to get a recommendation letter from a teacher.
Got it. All right. So if you know a student who would like to register, then LafayetteLA.gov. KPEL News Time, 7:45.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We don't have any accidents on the roadways. At 7:48 in the morning, that's good news. Current temperature 78 degrees. Good morning. Welcome back into Acadiana's Morning News. Tracy Wertz, Mark Pope, Lafayette Live with Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco-Boulet. Thank you for being here, by the way. We talked about a lot, storm recovery. I'm kind of a fan of the Youth Advisory Council now. Let's talk about a couple of things. Lafayette Police Department. First of all, Judith Estorge stepped down. She will still be with the department, but she did step down. And so that means there's going to be a vacancy, at least for a while, because I think we're going to get a name next week. Tell us what's happening.
Yes. So first, I want to thank Judith Estorge, Chief Estorge. You know, she's anybody who has worked with her in law enforcement knows she is a tremendous law enforcement officer, as well as she really came into LPD at a time of a lot of instability and brought stability. So I first want to just thank Judith for everything she's done for Lafayette. She's not going anywhere. She's going to stay in the department. She is a tremendous law enforcement officer. Let me say that again.
Yeah.
We will be naming an interim next week, and then we will open up a nationwide process. And I really want to take a minute and do it well.
Yeah.
And make a good decision on this. It's important that we continue with the, stability, get good leadership in. Leadership is everything. And so I do want to take some time and go through a good process, get some good candidates in, and make a good choice. And so that's what, I'm going to ask for a little patience while we do that. But I think we'll be in good hands in the meantime. We will name an interim next week, and that's what
no, and I think that's probably the most prudent move, because we did see a lot of upset, and I don't just, I think about the way that the community views that, the optics around it, and just how it affects them. But I remember all of the changes, and I felt for the department, the members of the department, kind of being in a constant state of flux.
Yeah. And we kind of see the impacts of that. We have a great police department. Let me start and say that it is impressive when you get in there and you see what they do at festival, and we have a really strong police department. But again, when leadership is not stable, and we had so much turnover, it really does destabilize an organization. And so that's what I am glad Judith is staying within the department. It does signal it's not a lot of, it's not, we're not how do you say it?
Not a lot
I
of
just
drama.
don't want all the drama.
Yeah.
Exactly, Mark. I just don't want all the drama.
Yeah, no, that's, you know what? Just call it what it is, right? And
I'm
I think
trying
there's
to
nothing wrong
find
with
that word, and that's it, Mark. You got it.
Yeah.
And I think we're on a good path.
Yeah, sounds good. So next week we'll know who the interim is. And so we'll find that out. Let's talk. We have about 2 minutes. The LPD Citizens Academy. What is that?
So the police department has been putting this on for some time, and I'm looking at my notes.
That's okay. You can put your notes.
It begins on June 5th. It gives citizens an opportunity. I believe it's on Wednesday evenings for how many weeks? Several weeks. Which you get to go get trained as an officer and see from the inside what they go through. We actually have several staff members signed up. It's a fascinating world that the police officers live in, right? And they open that up. It's like going behind the curtain and learning all the tricks. And so we encourage citizens who want to participate. It gives them a leg up on, again, understanding how our government works, how our police department works, and how to, once you understand that, you can become a viable part of the conversation, a stakeholder who can engage, who can, participate at a different level. And so we really are encouraging anybody who's interested to sign up.
Does it cost anything? Is it free? Is it?
It is free,
okay.
And you must be 18 years or older, and you do have to pass a background check. And there's 20 spots.
Okay.
And it's chosen from a lottery from all those who apply.
Okay. And you can apply at LafayetteLA.gov?
Yes.
Okay. And it's probably under the police tab, but it's there. We'll try to make it available at our website, too, to make it even more accessible. But it's the LPD Citizens Academy. You want to see how it all works? Well, now's your chance.
That's it.
As always, thank you so much for your time. And Kaylee, you as well, making your debut on KPEL this morning. Lafayette Live happens every Thursday morning at 7 o'clock, and we appreciate the Mayor President and her staff for participating to keep us all informed. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tracy.
KPEL News Time is 7:55. We will be back with more, but we've got to look at national news and local news on the way.
This report is brought to you by Walter Campbell and Deborah Pierce of Keller Williams Realty. For all of your commercial property needs, reach out to Walter and Deborah today.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
More upbeat earnings are coming in this morning. BJ's Wholesale reported earnings and revenue that topped forecasts. Its sales at existing stores were up more than 1.5%, which was a stronger number than predicted. Though BJ's Wholesale is not raising expectations for the year, and the stock is down 1%. Shoe Carnival's quarter came in better than expected. It saw strong demand for sandals for the Easter holiday. A lawsuit is expected against Live Nation to break up its 14-year-old merger with Ticketmaster. The Wall Street Journal says the Justice Department and a group of states will accuse the entertainment company of using its ticketing monopoly to suppress competition. NASDAQ futures are sharply higher after chipmaker NVIDIA's dramatically better than expected earnings. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Posola, invested in you.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie.
Democracy 24.
Former President Trump has made it clear he would like to debate President Biden early and often. But before any debate, Mr. Trump says he wants to make sure his opponent is clean.
I'm going to demand a drug test, too, by the way. I am. No, I really am.
A White House spokesman says Republicans are confusing the president's confidence for a drug. Then there's independent Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is fighting to get into the debates. RFK Jr. cites polling suggesting self-described Republicans and Democrats only make up 54% of the country, arguing that he represents a huge voting bloc.
The independents represent 43%. Oh, don't you think that there should be an independent on the stage?
In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL, Breaux Bridge, Lafayette, broadcasting from the Matthew James Tax Pros studio. Find them online at MatthewJamesTaxPros.com.
Haley now supports the Republicans she ran against. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. More than 2 months after dropping out of the presidential race, Nikki Haley tells the Hudson Institute she'll vote for former President Trump, citing foreign policy and border security.
Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe.
Now, today, the former president will hold a rally in a Democratic stronghold, the South Bronx in New York City.
Him coming here is going to show that at least he's trying.
My advice to Trump is just to be himself, to be relatable.
Now, Democrats plan a Trump is not welcome in the Bronx counter rally. In Mexico, a presidential campaign rally turned deadly. 9 people killed in a stage collapse. Fox's Jonathan Savage reports.
The tragedy happened as center-left presidential candidate Jorge Alvarez Maínez was giving a speech in the city of San Pedro Garza Garcia near Monterrey. In video posted on social media, a roof and lighting structure come crashing down. People can be heard screaming as they run from the stage. Maínez says a sudden gust of wind led to the incident.
The candidate was not injured. 60 others were. The Senate will vote today trying to revive a border security bill that stalled in February. Democrats say it'll change asylum rules and stem the flow of illegal immigration. Most Republicans disagree, say it won't do enough. GOP senators are also concerned about this.
After 2 Jordanian nationals attempted to breach Marine Corps Base Quantico in Virginia while dressed as delivery drivers, Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham wants answers.
You got 2 fighting age males, came here illegally from the Mideast. What could possibly go wrong?
Fox News has learned through multiple DHS sources one of the Jordanian nationals crossed the border illegally in the San Diego sector last month and was released on a notice to appear. The other is a student who had overstayed his visa.
Ryan Schmelz, America's listening to Fox News.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now, and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
You know, we're so fortunate in this country to have a military that is 100% volunteer. Now, that's why Pure Talk proudly supports America's Warrior Partnership and their mission to prevent veteran suicide. If you make the switch on your cell phone, well, guess what? You're going to get Pure Talk's 5G network, unlimited talk and text, $20 a month. Just dial pound 250, say the keyword SAVE NOW for superior cell phone service, half the price of the big carriers, and you also help
your 24/7 news source, on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirtz.
The Cajun Heartland State Fair is happening now through June 2nd. The fair is celebrating its 36th anniversary, and you can get the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack now. The Mega Pack includes 4 ride wristbands and 4 fair admission vouchers for only $125 each. And you can redeem them on any day of the fair that you choose. Save now when you score the News Talk 96.5 KPEL Mega Pack. Just $125. Get yours today. You can buy the Mega Pack at the Cajun Dome box office or online at CajunDome.com. LUS presents the Cajun Heartland State Fair now through June 2nd at the Cajun Dome. Experience the wild rides on the Gold Star Midway or great bands nightly at the Coca-Cola Grandstand. Or check out the free family entertainment like Scott's World of Magic. Learn more at CajunDome.com or KPEL965.com and click on the Cajun Dome link. Brought to you by News Talk 96.5 KPEL, where Acadiana comes to talk.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight, and as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday, and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
We have an accident southeast of Angelin Thruway at Pinhook. Another 200 block of Ambassador Caffrey. That's going to be just south of I-10. And another accident west Pinhook Road at James Como. So be careful. 77 degrees right now. KPEL News Time is 8:10 on this Thursday morning. Congressman Clay Higgins has received an endorsement of House conservative leaders. Majority Whip Tom Emmer said Clay Higgins is a conservative warrior. As a senior member of the Oversight Committee, He's fighting to hold the Biden administration accountable and advance the America First agenda. And I do have to qualify a statement I made earlier this week. When the congressman ran, originally, he was a resident of Port Barre. And Port Barre essentially is in the 5th district, or was it at the time. And he crossed that district line to run in the 3rd district, which is Lafayette and other parts of Acadiana. There is no mandate that a congressional candidate live in their district. The discussions started over the issue that is arising with Congressman Garrett Graves' district, in that Cleo Fields has decided he's going to run. So Congressman Garrett Graves, I think, has said that he will run in his district, but there was some speculation that he may run in another district. And the concern was, or the question was, is that allowed because if he lives out of the district? And the answer is yes. And so when Congressman Clay Higgins ran, he lived in Port Barre. He lived in the 5th district versus the 3rd district, which is where we are. Got a message yesterday from his communication team that said he does live in Lafayette. He does have a house here. So wanted to make sure that we qualified that statement because, Mark, I want to be accurate. I don't want to be inaccurate.
That's right.
So he does have a house in Lafayette, although he did live in Port Barre when he ran. But again, it's kind of a moot point because you can run anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in the 3rd district. I could run in the 6th district. I could run in the 5th district. Because there is no mandate that you live in the district that you represent. Although it makes sense to run in the district in which you are best known. You have the best name recognition.
Right. And when you're back home, visiting with the people, which is what good representatives do, it's a little bit of a challenge if you have to commute,
right,
an hour or so to the district you represent. But, Congressman Higgins has his regular town hall meetings, and he's doing what a representative is supposed to do.
And in all fairness, too, Port Barre's just right over that line. It's not like it's way up in a different district.
No, that's right.
Regardless.
That's
but
right.
We want to make sure that we communicate that he does own a house in Lafayette, although I couldn't find that information anywhere online. So, maybe I was looking in the wrong places, which sometimes happens. There's so much information on the, as one of our colleagues here calls it, the interweb.
The interweb.
Interweb.
I saw it on an article, but you are correct. Staying informed, Tracy, is sometimes like trying to take a drink of water from a fire hydrant.
Yes.
Sometimes you get blown away.
Yeah, and qualifying the sites and making sure that you're reading the accurate information. And I'm going to kind of divert here and say that is one of the problems with our society right now, that we Google and we take at face value what comes up first.
Yep.
And that's not always accurate. My best advice over the years to people who are outside of this industry is, where did that information come from? They'll text me and say, I heard or I read.
Yeah.
My first question is, where did you hear it from, or where did you read it? What was the source of that information?
Correct.
Because if you don't do that, then you just are spreading lies or half truths or partial information. We can all take something out of context and make it align with our own personal beliefs, which is dangerous.
I agree. I like Miss Google, as I call her, or Siri, if you will. But trust but verify.
Oh, always
is my method. Modus operandi, as they say.
Yeah. So anyway, Clay Higgins received the endorsement of the conservative members of the House, and will continue to follow all things election. As qualifying, is it July, or I think it's July? It might be August, but I think it's July.
Skunipa?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll have to check that out, Mark.
Yep, check it out.
All right. KPEL News Time is 8:15.
Fox on Tech.
NASA says its new Star Trek-y-looking engine is working, pushing a spacecraft into deeper space. Last October, NASA launched a probe called Psyche. It's traveling to an asteroid also named Psyche. And while NASA used rockets to get it from the launch pad in Florida to space, NASA now is making the probe turn on its ion propulsion in order to head to deep space. Ion propulsion is an emerging technology where electricity is used to charge xenon gas, expelling atoms as exhaust. Not only does it push forward, it glows bright blue like something on a sci-fi TV show. As of now, Psyche is traveling at a speed of 84,000 miles an hour. NASA says Psyche is currently more than 190 million miles from Earth, and even though it will accelerate to speeds of nearly 125,000 miles an hour, it will still be another 5 years before it reaches its asteroid. With Fox on Tech, I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight. And as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, let's take a look at traffic. We have an accident East 3rd Street and Evangeline in Lafayette, Southeast Evangeline Thruway and Pinhook. And another accident, the 200 block of Ambassador Caffrey Parkway. That's going to be just south of I-10. Finally, West Pinhook Road at James Como in Lafayette. Be careful out there. Current temperature 77 degrees. Good morning and welcome back into Acadiana's morning news and our law enforcement segment. And y'all, I might holler and scream. I'm so excited. We are joined this morning by Sergeant Todd Green and Corporal Adam Townley, who manage the Mounted Patrol. I have been waiting for this. I like horses. I'm like a kid. You know, I'm the little girl that wanted the pony for her birthday, right? You guys have the best job, I'm sure, in LPD, right?
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You fall in love with them for sure.
Okay, so first of all, give us a little bit of background. You said you didn't even know how to ride a horse.
No, actually, I didn't. The unit started around 2005 in its infancy. By 2006, we were operating, and I was like, you know what? I want to do that. So I went and started training, started doing what we were doing, and never looked back ever since 2006.
Now, Adam, you knew about horses, right?
I did. I had horses growing up and trained them and rode them and did stuff like that, mostly Western. And then when I became a cop, it was just kind of something I wanted to do, obviously. I mean, I did it my whole life, so it was an easy fit for me.
Now, I have to ask you, and we'll get to where exactly you guys respond, where you operate, that kind of thing, but I do have to ask you, because of your training background, this has got to be very different because these horses are in much different circumstances. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And different breeds that I grew up with. I grew up with quarter horses, rodeo stuff. These horses are warm bloods, so they're not quarter horses, and we use them in a totally different manner than what you would see, at a rodeo or anything. We deal with crowds. We deal with festivals. We deal with music, lights, sirens, smells, smoke, you name it.
Yeah.
And they have to be ready for that. And they have to be desensitized, and they have to be ready to work, just like a patrol officer on the road has to be ready at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the dogs, too. They have to go through special training, that kind of thing. And I harken back to the videos we saw out of New Orleans when they had the protest at Tulane, and, they had the mounted patrols. And, I mean, those people were just crowding them. And, they have to know not to buck, not to kick, not to, and that's got to take some time.
It takes a lot of time. And every horse is different. Every horse has a personality, just like a human. And once you figured out that horse's personality, you go with it right there and start your training.
Where do you get your horses? Because you mentioned, Todd, that Adam, that it's a special breed. And do the horses come to you fully trained, or talk about where they come from and how are they trained?
So we have 7 horses right now, and out of those 7, 5 of them came from Angola. And we got those when they were 5 years old, and they were what we call green broke, which is basically you can put a saddle on them and kind of ride them. But as far as desensitizing goes to gunfire, smoke, fires, lights, sirens, they had to be trained. And they had to be trained maneuvers and what we call cues and what we need to do with them and how to do it. And then the other 2 that we got, they're not from Angola. We got those from private sellers, and they were pretty similar. They were broke, but they didn't know desensitizing at all. They were more or less trail horses and or rodeo horses. So we pretty much had to start with those guys from square one as well and work them up to where they are now.
Now, do you guys train them or does somebody else train them?
No, we do everything in-house, train them ourselves. Myself, Todd, and there's a handful of others that are trainers, and we do everything at our barn.
Wow.
What does that mean, though? They came from Angola. Is there a horse program? And when I hear Angola, I think Angola prison, correct?
Yes, sir. Angola prison had a breeding program in the early 2000s. It's no longer there now, but back then they had a breeding program that bred Percherons and thoroughbreds, which you get a warm blood crossbreed, and that's what our 5 older horses are. Yeah.
How long does a horse live? I'm thinking 5 years old. If it was a dog, it'd be, middle age.
So the warm bloods, obviously you got a draft and a like a thoroughbred,
right?
Cross. So they actually live a pretty long time.
Okay.
Our horses now, we have 3 now that are 21 years old.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those are slated to be retired right now.
Yeah.
So we're in transition of training new horses in order to replace those particular.
Well, where do they go once they retire?
They actually retire to members that are in the unit right now and our other police officers, as long as they have the adequate space to care for them. And
kind of like the canines,
right?
Very similar.
They'll go to an officer that rides with us first if they want them. If nobody wants them there, then they'll go to a police officer, and then from there we can house them somewhere or another department.
So before you tell us their names, we've seen them in crowds. When do they call out the mounted patrol?
So we work every Saturday night downtown, and we go down there just for crowd control. When the bars are closing, we just, urge people to come on. It's time to go home. We have been deployed for the protests that occurred back, 3 years ago now, 3-4 years ago, because we had certain individuals that were blocking intersections. So we need to free up those intersections, and they're awesome use for that. So those are the major times that we're actually deploying them. Other times that we'll go out and we'll do school visits, which we actually really, really enjoy.
I bet so.
Yes, right? Because, the horses are an excellent tool where, we're in law enforcement status a lot of time, but now we get people that'll come up and they'll approach us, and it just kind of bridges that little gap between law enforcement and the community. Yeah. And that's what we really enjoy doing.
Who doesn't like a horse, right?
It's great PR.
And so so let's say I'm out in the community and I see you guys because, I'm going to want to go pet them and tell them hello. Yeah. Is that a bad thing? Do people need to say, hey?
We encourage that.
Please come do it. Just ask. Just ask first.
Yeah.
But other than that, 100%, please come do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take selfies with him, whatever you want. Oh, yeah. Pet him, love on him. Because that's their reward. When they don't get treats and peppermints and things like that. Their reward is to get pet by us and people in the public. That's their reward for doing a good job.
Is there ever a time when you get a horse and you just can't get them where you need it to be?
Some horses are a little tougher to deal with than others. Knock on wood, we've had a handful of horses that didn't make our program just because they just didn't have it mentally. Mm-hmm. Because it takes a lot. It's just like not everybody's built to be a cop. Well, not every horse is built to be a horse cop. Mm-hmm. So you got to go through that training process and figure them out and see if they have it, their capability is there. But most of the time, knock on wood, most of our horses, we've been lucked out and had some good horses.
Okay, so you said I'm sorry, Mark. Just one more thing. You said horse cop. Is that what they call them? Because they call dogs canines. Right. So was there a name for them like that?
Mounted patrol.
Okay.
Yeah. Mounted patrol horses and mounted patrol equines.
Oh, right.
So I'm thinking of the mounted patrol. It's a specialty of law enforcement. Is there, this is how I think. Is there a special saddle that you guys, that the mounted officers use that's specifically for that purpose?
So every mounted division's different. We run what's called a crossbreed. It's a Tucker saddle. And what it is, it's a crossbreed between a Western saddle and an English saddle. So it has like the English fenders, the English stirrups, but it doesn't have a Western horn, that thing in the middle that you hold on to. Yeah. That's a horn. We don't have that. What we had is we just have a roll up there. But everything else on it, the seat is Western. So we use both because we ride English and Western. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of a dual-purpose riding horses and officers. So we needed a dual-purpose saddle and comfort because, I mean, we might be in those saddles for 8, 10, 12 hours at festival and Mardi Gras.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
So it has to be comfortable, too. But we run a crossbreed saddle.
And like the motorcycle police, y'all get to wear those cool-looking uniforms, huh, with the big boots?
Those uniforms are the coolest. That's
yeah, they really are. They really are.
They are.
I mean, you know, I'm all about fashion being a girl. All right, so now let's talk about the horses. We have probably about 2 or 3 minutes. Tell us what their names are. Give us a little bit about them.
So our older horses, we have Sugarfoot, we have Rio, and we have Slim. Slim is actually on his way to be retired. Mm-hmm. Those are the original horses that we got from Angola.
Wow.
So their
and they've
personalities.
Been with you since 2005?
Oh, they've been with us since the very beginning.
Wow.
But they're 21, but we get them vetted. Every year the vet comes check them out, teeth, everything like that. And we actually they get compliments. I'm not going to say the horses get compliments because they say even though how old they are, they still are like maybe 6 years younger as far as their joints and everything else with them. So very, very good, healthy horses. So Sugarfoot, when we first got him, he was a bit energetic. And then it was like one day, and I say that, energetic, like you go be in the sand a couple times in the arena, right? One day it just clicked for him. And now we use Sugarfoot. He's one of our beginners horses. So our new riders will come on and we'll do assessments on Sugar just because we know Sugar's disposition is very calm now. He can be a bit ornery in the sense of if you're not telling me what to do when it's time to do it, I'm not going to do it.
See, I can be a bit ornery, so he and I would get along well.
A lot of people love Sugarfoot.
Yeah.
Exactly. And everybody recognizes Sugarfoot because on his left rear foot, it's white. So we'll be out there now, and they're like, oh, it's Sugarfoot. It's Sugarfoot. Wow. It's Sugarfoot. So the horse is kind of, people know him, you know.
Yeah.
They're another person with us, you know, and they're actually more famous than the riders, and we're okay with that.
Well, yeah. Okay, so those are the 3.
Uh-huh.
And then?
So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Adam, and he'll talk about the other ones that we have.
So we have the 5 old guys, and then we have 2 young ones. Troubadour, who's a purebred Clydesdale we got from a private seller. He's massive.
That's I literally ran a parade route to see the Clydesdales
Ruby's
in flip-flops, and I was like 40.
He's 2,000 pounds. We had him on a little bit of a diet.
He's a big boy.
If you know about horses, he's 18 one hands, which is 1 hand is 4 inches. So you can imagine he's very tall.
Yeah, he's over 6 foot at the withers.
But he is a big baby. I mean, a huge, huge teddy bear. He loves to be pet. He doesn't do anything unless you make him. His whole world is, I just want to walk and stand here.
Okay.
So he's kind of our beginning horse, too. He'll make you work because, again, he doesn't want to do anything except walk. and then we have a new one called Judge. We named him Judge. He is a crossbreed a Shire and a quarter horse. So he was an ex-rodeo horse, and we just got him last year. But his name is Judge, and he's working out really good for us. We've been working him. I guess he's been on the road, and I say road, downtown 3 times in the past month. So he's in kind of our training, but he's doing really well. He's kind of for our advanced riders right now because he's still new to all the sights and sounds and stuff downtown. And that's our 2 new guys along with our 5 older guys.
Okay, so I think you mentioned 3 names.
3, so we'll go back, and then so now we have Levi and we have Dutch.
Okay.
Levi is right at 20 years old, and Dutch is at 19 years old. So they're pretty high-spirited horses. Even though for their age, they still have a lot of spirit in them. And I say that is that you really have to be, when you're riding them, you really have to be riding them and paying attention to your external cues, what they're doing. So a lot of our new riders, they won't pick up on those little subtle cues that the horses are giving them right away. So we don't put them on them when it's time to go out and actually work. Because like I said, they're pretty high spirited, and they will kind of do what they want to do sometimes in a very fast way.
Okay.
And sometimes you just won't catch it soon enough.
So there are 3 full-timers in the with the Mounted Patrol?
So right now it's just 2.
Just
it's
2?
myself and Adam.
So y'all the only 2 riders, or there's other riders?
We actually have a total of 12 riders, including ourselves.
Okay.
So those officers that ride, they have other duties within the police department. Some are in patrol, some are in detectives, and various other sections. So whenever they're not working, they'll come in and they'll train on their days off. Or whenever they're not scheduled to be on shift or any other duties, they'll work the downtown assignments.
Okay, so how many people or how many horses, I guess, do you have downtown on a Saturday night?
We like to run at a minimum of 2 horses, but lately we have a good group of riders. So we'll bring 4 horses out, 3 to 4 horses out now on the weekends.
And then for parades and Mardi Gras season, that kind of thing, I would think that number is increased.
It's all hands on board at that point. So we're running 4 horses for Mardi Gras parades. And then following the Mardi Gras parades, we have obviously post assignments that we'll go to. For festival, we were very fortunate this year to run 6 horses, which worked out great because we were able to divide and run 3 horses on one end and 3 horses on the other end. And we just had that presence. As you can obviously know, the presence of a horse is
imposing. Imposing.
You can't miss a horse standing there, right?
No. 9-10 feet in the air.
So we've always said that 1 horse is equal to about 10-foot officers on the ground. We can actually see our vantage point. You can see it very well. What's kind of going on beyond the crowd. You guys just had the mayor on.
Yeah.
So she was able to sit on one of the horses.
That's what she said.
Troubadour.
She sat on Troubadour, and she was like, wow, you guys can really see a lot from this vantage point. And we were like, yes, it's amazing from being on foot, and now you're up on a horse, and you can see so much. So we see a lot of things before they're, right as they're happening.
And that's what I want to ask, too, is that paint a picture of you're downtown, you're at a parade. Are you going to give chase and when you're in a dangerous situation? Because I think about canines and the fact that they are usually going into some really dangerous situations. Are you guys more of a surveillance, or how does that work?
No, we're pretty hands-on. I mean, we've had a Mardi Gras parade where we had to get officers to move the barricades so we could get into a fight and break up a fight and deal with that situation because they couldn't stop the fight otherwise. So we had to bring horses in and literally clear the crowd and get people to stop fighting.
Okay.
But we're running in just like everybody else on the horses, except we're on horses. So we're getting there faster and a little bit louder and a little more intense because you can hear us coming. But, I mean, we've had situations downtown where, we've had, unfortunately, shootings and things we've had to go into and deal with on horses, just like you would on foot.
Yeah.
So we're right there in it, too. Yeah.
Well, I could talk to you guys all day. Y'all, they're on the other side of the radio going, good gosh, Tracy. But, y'all don't have any idea how exciting this is for me because I am that kid. When you're around New Orleans and you see the Mounted Patrol or you see them at the parades, I mean, you guys have a very popular job.
And we love it.
We love it.
And
Yeah,
it's obvious that they love it. That's what I was going to say. People enjoy the conversation when you hear that energy, and that comes from you guys loud and clear.
Thank you for taking the time. And for those of you listening, I will have the bios and the pictures of all of these horses for you. I'll tell you a little bit about the riders, too. But it's really going to be about the horses,
It's
y'all.
always about the horses.
Absolutely. Todd, Adam, thank you. An absolute pleasure. Absolute
Thank you for
pleasure.
having us.
KPEL News Time is 8:36. Every seat, every time. It's time to buckle up, Louisiana, and it's the law. Click it or tick. This hour brought to you by the Matthew James Tax Pros. Find them online at MatthewJamesTaxPros.com.
Your 24/7 news source on air, online, and with the KPEL News app. Now the headlines from the KPEL News Center.
Good morning. I'm Tracy Wirtz with a look at news on this Thursday, May 23rd. Lafayette police have arrested the person they believe was responsible for the shooting death of 70-year-old Stanford Mouton on Tuesday morning. They say 27-year-old Leon Boulet IV of Lafayette was involved in an incident with other victims on Macklin Street. He fired a weapon several times, and one of the bullets struck Mouton in the neck while he was sleeping in his house. Boulet is charged with 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. Former teacher Jacob Delapaz was convicted Wednesday on a charge of attempted receipt of child pornography. However, a mistrial was declared on the count of attempted production of child pornography. The charges stem from a January 2023 incident when he was listed as a teacher at St. Thomas More High School. No word on whether Delapaz will be retried on the second charge. Acadia Parish detectives have solved a 20-plus-year-old cold case. In December of 2003, the body of Susan Kennedy Jackson was found bludgeoned in Bayou Wyckoff, north of Exit 82 in Crowley. The Acadiana Crime Lab submitted DNA evidence to a nationwide database at the time, and detectives were recently notified of a match in the Jackson case. The DNA matched 44-year-old Ferris Bonham of Washington State. He was incarcerated in Michigan on unrelated charges and was transferred to the Acadia Parish Jail, where he was booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Lafayette Mayor President Monique Blanco Boulet has signed an emergency declaration following the severe storms that impacted the parish last week. The storms left extensive debris and high recovery costs in their wake, and Boulet says the declaration will expedite the cleanup process and secure additional funding toward those efforts. Citizens insurance policyholders may see some relief from high premiums as lawmakers are working on a bill that would suspend the 10% surcharge for coastal residents and reduce the surcharge to 5% for the rest of the state. The bill calls for a 3-year suspension of that surcharge to be evaluated yearly. Citizens' rates are intentionally higher, so the state's insurer of last resort is not in competition with private insurers. The bill needs approval before lawmakers adjourn the legislative session, which must end on June 3rd. Legislation to remove the required 20-minute break for minors who work 5 or more hours passed in the Senate after it was amended, and it heads back to the House. Lafayette Republican Senator Jean-Paul Cousson's amendment changed the bill to keep the required break for 14 and 15-year-olds. The amendment passed with a 25-11 vote. The Louisiana Senate has approved a bill that would decriminalize the possession and use of drug paraphernalia like pipes and bongs. Under the measure, offenses would be civil and violators would pay a fine but not serve jail time. The amended version of House Bill 165 sets fines at $100 for a first offense, $500 for a second, and $2,500 for third offenses, but no jail time. Legislative efforts nationwide are aimed at reducing the punishment for marijuana-related offenses. That's a look at your news. I'm Tracy Wirtz.
Pack your bags. We want to send you and a guest to experience the magic of Def Leppard's Summer Stadium Rock Tour this August. We want to fly you and a guest to San Antonio, Texas, where you'll see Def Leppard, Journey, and the Steve Miller Band in concert at the one and only Alamo Dome. What do you need to do? It's simple. Just listen to News Talk 96.5 KPEL weekdays for the codes you'll need to enter. Every day between now and June 7th at 9, 12, and 3 p.m., you're going to get a code. Enter that into the KPEL app, and you've got a chance to win. You'll get 2 tickets to see Def Leppard with Journey and the Steve Miller Band at the Alamo Dome on Friday, August 16th. Round-trip airfare for 2 to San Antonio, a 2-night hotel stay, and $500 spending money. If you don't have the KPEL app, you need to download it immediately. Listen every day at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 3 p.m. for your chance to win tickets to the Summer Stadium Rock Tour with Def Leppard and Journey on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Good looking weather across Acadiana here today. Temperatures are going to get to about 90 degrees this afternoon with a pretty steady breeze later on in the day. Winds will be out of the south at about 10 to 15 miles an hour, maybe gusting a little bit higher from time to time. Low is going to be in the mid-70s tonight, and as we look ahead into tomorrow, we're going to sit in the low 90s once again. A little more sunshine out there for Friday, and continuing to stay on the quiet side all the way through the holiday weekend. From the Storm Team 3 Weather Lab, I'm KTC meteorologist Daniel Phillips on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Right now, traffic.
All right, Moss Street and Matthew Street. Also, mile marker 100, westbound I-10. That's Ambassador Caffrey. An accident 4100 block of West Congress. We have an accident East 3rd in Evangeline. Southeast Evangeline Thruway in Pinhook. 200 Ambassador Caffrey. That's just south of I-10. And still showing that accident West Pinhook Road at James Como. Be careful. Current temperature 77 degrees. KPEL News Time is 8:46 on this Thursday morning, and on Thursdays, we talk to our law enforcement folks from around Acadiana. And joining us by phone this morning is Iberia Parish Sheriff Tommy Romero and his trusty sidekick, Kathy. Good morning.
Good morning. We appreciate you having us on this morning.
Absolutely. We thank you so much for your time. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. First of all, I have to say this. We just talked to LPD and the Mounted Patrol, and you guys have one in Iberia Parish.
Yes, it's probably not as big as the one in Lafayette, but we have a little small unit, and we use that on occasions.
I am so excited to hear that. I'm telling you, I'm like a kid. All right, Sheriff, now let's talk about summer, because you wanted to kind of give some reminders to folks, right?
Yes, look, summer vacation's coming up. Kids are going to be out of school. I'm sure they want to enjoy their summer vacation, but a lot of times some of our juveniles tend to stray and get themselves in a little bit of trouble. Some of the trouble that we see happening with juveniles, and it's my understanding that about 38% of juveniles crime increases with regards to juveniles.
Wow.
So some of the things they get in trouble with is theft, trespassing, when parents are away and leaving their kids at home. Sometimes if there's alcohol at the residence, they'll partake in some alcoholic beverages, and they end up violating the curfew violations. They trespass on other people's property with four-wheelers, and they're causing some criminal damage to property. So with having said that, there's also some activities that we need to remind parents to be mindful of, which is everybody wants to get out in the pool. We want to make sure that we have some safety measures in place in monitoring kids' activities in the swimming pools. Also, with the heat coming on, we want to make sure that we double-check the rear seat of a vehicle, make sure we don't leave our precious children behind and forget them in the vehicles. So there's some helpful things that we can do, or we can recommend to some parents that can keep their children out of trouble. You can inform them there are consequences to what they do in their actions. Know where their location is at. Set some rules. Track their telephone. Know who they're hanging around with. So that's some of the things that we think parents ought to be aware of with summer vacation coming upon us.
No, those are great reminders. And, tracking their cell phone, that's kind of a big deal. And let me tell you what, parents, if you don't, and grandparents, if you don't know about it already, Life 360. I'm telling you, it has been one of the best things in terms of keeping, I know my granddaughter safe and knowing where they are. And, they'll tell you, oh, well, what about my privacy? And I think, and I've told my children over the years, that phone is not yours. You don't pay for it. It's mine.
Absolutely right. And look, we all know who's paying the bill for that phone. And parents need to realize that they have control of the phone, as well as the keys to vehicles and keys to four-wheelers. They don't want their kid to get in trouble with a four-wheeler and prohibit them from using it until they get home. Take the key. It's your right to take the key out of the four-wheeler.
Now, tell us a little bit about four-wheeler safety. Now, you mentioned private property. What happens? I mean, are the parents penalized when that happens? Walk us through that thread of someone calls and says they're riding four-wheelers on my property and I didn't give them permission. What happens next?
Well, first of all, we respond. We get the individual to call into the office, give us the location of where this activity is taking place. We respond, and many, many times the operators of the four-wheelers flee from the officers, and it's hard to get some identification on them so that we can charge them. Sometimes the landowner may know who it is, and we're going to try to make an apprehension and file charges. We can also hold the parents responsible. They can be cited. It just depends on the individual circumstance.
Now, when you talked about water safety, do you guys, how many, I'm trying to think of the geography of Iberia Parish. You guys have some waterways around there, don't you?
Yeah, then we have Lake Joe Trees, Lake Falls Point. We have Vermilion Bay. All those, that's large bodies of water. When usually wildlife and fisheries will put out a program or an alert or a notification with regards to what all is required regarding boating safety. But, life jackets, if they're out there water skiing, if they're out there on jet skis, there's rules that they need to follow as well. But I think wildlife and fisheries pretty much will probably do a public notification with regards to that in more detail than I can provide you.
No, that sounds good. But again, water safety in general, and reminding parents to be very mindful of where their children are. Because let me tell you what.
And that goes back to, knowing where your children are and set rules and make sure that there's some consequences to their actions.
Yep. Sheriff, I just wanted to, I know we're short on time. I don't know if Tracy asked you already, but congratulations on getting your tax passed. I know you wanted to briefly thank your citizens for doing that. That will help with your staffing and your recruitment at the sheriff's office.
Well, you just stole my closing statement, but that's good. I appreciate you reminding me. But no, I appreciate the help to help us push the message out. I think we had the right message. That people understand that law enforcement plays a big role with regards to public safety, and we've got to pay our officers better. And I appreciate KPEL allowing me the time to get on the air and inform the public as to what we were going to use that tax for.
Well, we certainly appreciate it, Sheriff. Thank you so much for your time. Tell Kathy I said hello.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you.
All right. KPEL News Time is 8:53. That was Iberia Parish Sheriff Tommy Romero. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great day. God bless. One-stop shop in Lafayette for firearms, concealment furniture, men's grooming products, and our locally roasted coffee.
The Fox Business Report is brought to you by Gulf Coast Bank, your local community bank. Whether your financial needs are for an individual, a business, or for the whole family, Gulf Coast Bank has the knowledge and products to serve you best. With 9 convenient locations throughout Acadiana, you're never far from a friendly Gulf Coast Bank associate.
I'm Neil Cavuto, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There were fewer people filing for unemployment benefits last week. Assigned layoffs remain at low levels. The number of new claims dropped 8,000 to 215,000, though the number of people remaining on benefits continuing claims rose to 1.79 million. Also, there's a sign manufacturing slowed last month. The Chicago Fed's National Activity Index slipped to a deeper negative reading in April. Chipmaker NVIDIA's quarter jumped past expectations, and it remains optimistic about future demand for its artificial intelligence chips. NVIDIA is raising its dividends, splitting its stock 10-for-1, which will make it possible for more investors to buy it. NVIDIA shares are up 8%. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this.
Every day at 5 p.m. right here on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. It's me, Joe Cunningham, with The Joe Cunningham Show, offering you news, analysis, and commentary you're not going to get anywhere else. The big news stories of the day, and even some of the headlines you may not be aware of. It's your local, state, and national news coverage from a local perspective right here. Every day, News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Check us out, The Joe Cunningham Show, every day at 5 p.m.